All right, guys, welcome back to the Growth by Shawn podcast. I'm here with a very special guest today, all the way from Sydney. So, Estelle Nkubito, right? Got that?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
that's
got
not
that.
not
Yes.
bad, not bad. So, it's really a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm very excited for this. So, Estelle, I'll let you take the floor and give us a little bit of background of just like who we're talking to here and how you got to be where you are right now.
Well, thank you, Shawn. Thank you for this introduction. And yes, I am from Sydney, and I am an integrative health coach for women. And a little bit about myself is the reason I'm so passionate about this work, this mission, is because a few years ago, when COVID hit, I just realized how little I knew about my body, about myself, and about how to manage myself when I was alone. And I realized how chaotic my relationship with food was, and how and I couldn't get help. I couldn't really get help when I needed. And that's what started me on this journey of seeking answers for myself. And COVID really was the deal breaker for me that really forced me to kind of just look beyond the veil and just start to look answer other in other places than I would normally go to. And that just really kickstarted my journey into understanding that really I didn't know anything about my body. And that it was not about getting a pill from a doctor, but actually understanding the cycle of my actual cycle, my body. And no one told me that, oh, it just, if you're in this phase of your cycle, it's normal. What do you mean it's normal? I didn't even know. So I really got intrigued by the fact that, oh, I can actually understand my body, listen to it, and work with it. And that really got me here. And then 3 years later, I really started doing all these coaching things and meeting people and asking questions, and I made it my work. And I'm absolutely passionate because it's such a deep work. It looks at everything, right? I look at people's digestion, your sleep, your stress level, like your relationship, like how do you feel? Do you have energy through the day? What does your poop look like? You know, like like how's your skin? How's your nail? How fast your nails grow? We look at your feet. Like obviously it's quite broad, but that's what I believe should be the basics for health, and what really helps me look at someone's health.
Yeah, when I look at health, right, because I'm in the same field in health coaching, and it's not just the physical aspect. There are so many different aspects to this, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual side, and all of these really intertwine very specifically to that unique person, right? And so your
Yeah.
body, your digestive system, my digestive system, they're both very different. Even the food in Sydney versus the food here in the US,
Yeah.
both very different, right? We both
A
go to two
hundred
different
percent.
doctors. They're going to be completely different, right? Are we finding the root of things? Are we trying to put a band-aid on it? There's so much nuance to this entire approach. And so what I'd love to hear first, just about a little bit deeper into your story, is for a lot of people, I find that they are not connected with themselves, right? And we look at, just like you had mentioned, the food that we eat, the energy that we have, your digestion, how your bowel movements are, all of these different aspects. And I feel right now a lot of people don't even realize how inflamed and how stressed
Yes.
they actually are. So how did you come to that realization?
It took me a long time. I'm not gonna lie, I felt hopeless for a long time. I felt so hopeless because at the beginning, I was always into the gym, right? I was always into some kind of health thing. So I was always training. So I was never looking fat, right? So every time I'd seek help, people really never took me seriously. So
Mhm.
that was really the hard part because I felt hopeless and I didn't know what to do. So the first thing that kick-started everything and really I realized that, oh my God, there's hope. It's I did a 10 days silent retreat of Vipassana,
Mhm.
and that took me out of fight or flight. And after that retreat, I realized that I was able to manage my life better, my relationship with food. And that's what gave me hope that maybe I could get better because I got to a point where I was like, I'm hopeless. I'm going to be like this my whole life. Like I really didn't know what to do and where to look. And I realized that my stress level was the worst thing because I was constantly stressed. And then when I got out of that phase, it just settled. It was still chaotic, but it was just manageable. So that was the first thing that I did. And then education came in. And then I realized that if I want to know how to navigate it, I need to know what I ate, what I put in my body, and what does what to my body. So education was the next thing.
Yeah.
And
So
really getting a lot of coaches and mentor, right?
yeah,
It was a
yeah, and
big,
just surrounding
big
yourself with the with that energy from those around you. That's a huge component, right? That's what we're intaking too. It's not just the food, but the social media, the television. What are you intaking, right?
yeah.
There's all of these inputs. And so what led you to a silent retreat? And what were the first couple of days like? And what were the last couple of days like? And how did you get to that out of that fight or flight where your nervous system is like, oh my God, what's happening, into um more of like a baseline state?
Um, the reason I went on a 10-day silent retreat, it's because at the time I was working with someone and I kind of got dependent on him. He was a practitioner, some kind of therapist, and I got dependent on him because he was helping me and I just really depended on him. And what he kept telling me was like, look, I'm going to stop helping you. You need to start meditating. And he kept telling me to meditate. And I kept getting upset because I was like, why would I meditate when you can give me all the answers?
Hmm.
Right. So one day, really, after him, like after something happened, I decided to book a retreat. And really, I was in a stage where I was hopeless. Like, I didn't know what to do. I tried so many things, hypnotherapy, psychology, um, NLP, like whatever you can think of, I've tried. So I booked myself in. That was wild. It was wild because you realize your mind is your best friend or your worst enemy. And the first few days was amazing. It was amazing. It was like, wow, I can't believe I just did 30 hours in silence. Then you get to day 4 and it kicks in. Your mind turns against you. And it was dark. It was dark, but I was able to see. And I was sitting with all that pain, all that pain, all that discomfort, and sitting with it made me just move through it. And everything pops up, right? Because you sit with yourself and you just have to face it. And that was the best thing I've ever did for myself. Face everything. And just I didn't know I was, there was damage in my body at the time.
Hmm.
But sitting with it made me realize that that's one of the root cause of all these issues with food.
Yep.
And that just and then when I left that retreat, I slept so much. I knew I got out of fight or flight because I was sleeping 10, 12 hours a night for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months. I don't remember for how long, but I was just sleeping so much. And I was like, this feels so good.
Yeah.
But I was healing. So it was beautiful.
Yeah, and everyone's healing journey is going to be different, and it's always this ongoing process. So to divert to where you're at now, right, you're helping a lot of women with that emotional eating aspect of things. And so where does that really come from? What does that look like? And what are some of the first steps that you're taking with women to get them out of these patterns that they have created for themselves?
Yes, good question. Um, so I look at emotional eating because that was the main thing that I was suffering with. And the first thing that I look at is the stress level. The stress level. And a big thing as well, identifying the trigger. Because once I got better at understanding what was going on and that it was a lot of the time linked to an emotional response, identifying the trigger was a deal breaker because I was eating the same emotion out, frustration. As soon as frustration would kick in, I knew I was frustrated, but I couldn't think. I just needed to eat. It's like this chaos in my head. I need to eat. I need to eat. And I was like, what's going on? And then obviously a year later, when I did all this work, I sit and I'm like, how do I feel? Frustrated. Every single time I want to eat, and I sit down for a minute and I ask, I'm frustrated.
Mhm.
Identifying that, it's it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like when you look at the trigger of something, right? The trigger is what often leads to that behavior. And so
Yes.
now when you look at the trigger of frustration, you have that self-awareness around it. Now, does it just become a choice for you to go and change that behavior? Or what do you do when frustration hits you now, so that you don't repeat that same emotional eating pattern?
Yes. Um, so the first thing really is my energy was really cluttered before. So before it for someone, it's not going to be easy for someone that just started her journey. we need to be like realistic. If someone just starts her journey and she's really energetically cluttered, mentally cluttered, and there's so much stress and trauma on her, she won't be able to manage it the way I do, because obviously there's like a few years of work behind me. So we have to compare a person's life, take in consideration, but because my craving have changed, the way I deal with it has changed, but because I believe of the background. But if someone has some kind of trigger, I would tell them to obviously take some deep breath, but also observe. To obviously, I remember how I felt, and if someone would have told me do not eat it, it would sound for me like it would sound stupid to me, because I'm like, I'm gonna eat it,
Hmm.
right? Is that I didn't have the mental capacity not to eat it. So I would be just observe how you feel before, while you eat, and after, and don't feel guilty while you eat it. Just
Hmm.
observe. Because I remember everyone was telling me, just stop eating. And I was like, you guys don't understand.
Yeah.
This is beyond me. I'm not controlling what I'm doing. And everyone was telling me, just stop yourself from eating.
Yep.
I was like, but I can't. So
Yep.
I'm not telling you not to eat. I'm telling you, observe it, and just observe the pattern. And then over time, obviously it's a process, but
Mhm.
over time it'll just become easier, but it's not overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. And one
Yeah,
of the
that's
biggest things that stuck out to me there is this pattern of shame and guilt that we give ourselves when we do something that we didn't necessarily want to do. We're stuck in this unconscious pattern where that's that self-sabotage component of it, right? And so how do you transition from, because that's the biggest thing. If you can get yourself out of that shame and guilt, you will be able to in
mhm,
turn break that pattern over time. If you just stop, but that's not easy for people, right? To just tell
yeah.
yourself, hey, I'm not going to feel guilty of this. I'm just going to become aware that I did this, right? And so
Yeah,
how do you get out of that shame and guilt and change that emotion truly?
it's a very good question. um I would say it's first, I know it's some people don't like it, but meditation is it's a great tool, because it's all about observing. And meditation doesn't have to be sitting down, right? A gentle yoga can be a form of meditation, walking meditation, but being mindful, observing. And it's not easy when, obviously, as I said again, you have a lot of baggage. Like it's not easy, because the first time I started all this, it was hard, but it happens. Like over time, like it happens, it becomes easier. But meditation, and I guess for women especially, I mean for men too, but this
Hmm.
practice is a lot for women, is somatic work,
Hmm.
which means breathe into your body. Just stop, stand up, put your hands on your womb, your hands on your heart, and breathe into it. And just listen. Is your body trying to tell you something? Is Are you feeling emotional? What
Hmm.
kind of emotion it is? Do you want to maybe sit with the emotion? Or do you want to talk to that emotion? Or maybe that emotion has a message for you. Navigate. Just don't try to understand or be analytical or practical. Just flow, because you want to tap in your feminine, because emotions, you want to flow with the emotions, and not try to kind of put them in a box. You really want to flow with them and let
Hmm.
them flow through you, because that's the ideal thing to do. It's
Yeah.
really let the emotion flows, even
Yeah.
for men, actually,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. So how can someone start looking into different somatic breathwork practices? Um, because that has helped me a lot, even with how different emotions or different past experiences can get stored in tissues in your genetic makeup, right? That this
Mm,
can be a very emotional release for a lot of people. So how can someone even get into that world, right?
um, so what worked for me, and what was
Hmm.
the biggest realization about exactly what you said, the first time I did the breath work after doing a lot of work on my mind, I had the craziest reaction ever, that I was shocked. That's where I realized how the trauma stayed stored in the tissues. And so for someone that has never done it, my recommendation, go to a practitioner.
Hmm.
The first time you do it, it can be quite intense. It can be scary. It can be so many things. It's beautiful. The reward is absolutely incredible. Now I do it every week. But the first time someone want to try breathwork, which I recommend everyone to try, I believe it's the most miraculous blessing that we have to actually access this kind of release just through our breath. But I would say, yeah, to go see a practitioner, or if they don't have the means, move with your body, dance, and if you feel confident, go on YouTube and put some videos and do it. Just try.
Yeah.
Just try. If
Yeah.
I think there's no, and go in nature because nature has this cleansing energy that if you go with an intention, you sit in nature and you're like, just help me release some deep stuff. She will hear you. She
Mhm.
will, and even say it's scientifically proven that the earth has, this magnetic field that just
Yeah.
helps you cleanse.
Yeah. It's all a different energy, right? Like you're gonna feel a lot
Yeah.
different sitting in your house than you are sitting at the beach, right? Two
Yeah.
very different things. You're still here in the now, but those energies are completely different, and it's why you feel a certain way. One of the things that I found with breath work specifically for me and for people that I have done it with is a difficulty of letting go and surrendering, right? So how can you really allow yourself to have the full experience and truly allow yourself to surrender in that moment, whether it's breath work or whether it's a different experience that you're having?
In terms of surrendering, it will be different for everyone because of the level trauma, the level of, the level of life experience they have. Because it took me a long time to surrender because my first breath work I did in 2020, I got nowhere. I did 6 sessions with this guy and I never felt anything. And I thought it was the biggest deal ever. Ever. I was like, this is complete bullshit. The guy made me like breathe for 2 hours and I'm just like, this is absolutely stupid. And then I did it again after Vipassana 2 years later. And and I was like, and so it took me 2 years to get to the point where I could surrender. And I didn't even know I had that much baggage. I thought I was, I was a happy girl. I was like, I just struggle with food, but my life is amazing, right?
Hmm.
But it was not. It was a lot to declutter. And I didn't even know I was feeling unsafe because that's the thing. We don't know. Because we
Hmm.
don't even know what it means to feel safe. Because I grew up in Belgium. And in Belgium, my whole life was unsafe. I was I was the constant fight or flight, constant, constant on looking if someone wanted to do something to me. As soon as I got to Australia, I was like, is that what it feels to feel safe? I was confused. I was like, I think I'm feeling safe. I would walk at night with my AirPods in my ears, feeling safe.
Hmm.
I didn't know what it felt like. So and I know I'm probably not the only one in this situation as female, especially.
Hmm.
We don't know what it feels to feel safe. Like, even the man that I met in my life today, I didn't even know that's how you're supposed to feel. It's like, oh wow, is that what it feels to just
Yeah.
have a regulated nervous system?
Yeah.
So you're telling me I can just not worry about anything? Like
Yeah.
it was a bit like it was new.
Hmm.
We're not taught. We don't know. It's and even I feel like there's an awakening with women. We're starting to realize that, you know, we deserve to be around good men. But I think it's just slowly happening, right? Because there's a lot of toxicity, and even on TV, you only see toxicity. If you open the TV, most of the movie are based on toxic relationship. So
Yeah.
we're just being pushed to believe that it's normal. I grew up with most of the people in my life had toxic relationship, and I
Hmm.
just didn't know that it was not right. Then I come to Australia, and everyone is so loving, and I'm like, oh, this is so weird, right?
Yeah. Like,
The real thing.
yeah, exactly what you said, right? Like you look at television and movies and all these things, and you can think about an agenda or all these different aspects, but like that's what is really programming your mind. Like if that's the thing that you see and you want to emulate and you think it's right, when you're a child, you don't know any better. You only
Yeah,
know what you see, right? That's it. Like you don't
exactly.
know how to regulate your emotions and all these different aspects. And so, especially like something that stuck out here is having women feel safe, right? And I think that that starts with men's healing as well, right? And
Yeah,
there's a duality component to it both. It's the men and the women, right? And
100%.
the part of it is too, like with social media now and how much information we have our mind is very drawn to negativity because it's like, ooh, what is this? What is this? Like we're just naturally drawn to it, and it's more of a human instinct. And so that's why I believe that's what we tend to see, right? It's just because it's what our mind is looking for. Not
Yeah,
necessarily saying that people are looking for negativity, but it's easier to go and have a punchy headline of something that's negative than something that's positive, right? And
yeah,
that's what we
true.
continue. So even with like your
Hmm.
relationship dynamics, like how did you get to feel so safe in your feminine, especially having a very masculine man? Like what does that look like?
Mm, it's so it's liberating. I've It allowed me to blossom. Honestly, it was the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me. So I surrendered. I, s-
Mm,
but I didn't even know that I deserved it. Because I feel like there was this whole self-worth thing as well that was really heavy in my field. And
mhm,
obviously I think it's just a very common thing as well. This feeling of, am I worthy of receiving this? But
mhm.
and I just kept saying like, why me? Why do I deserve all these things? And it was safe, just safety. And I remember every time I was stressed, I would just lay down and my nervous system would just calm down. And I'm like, I should pay you for that.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like,
Yes.
but it took a lot of work. It took a lot of
Mhm,
work. And as much as this relationship brought me that, brought me a lot of self-reflection. And
mhm,
because your biggest teachers are your relationships, so it's mirroring a lot of the things that I have to work on. And
mhm.
because I love this person so much, sometimes it's like pushing every button, and I'm like, how love and hate is so close.
Yep.
Right? I think you can
Yep.
understand that, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need to feel both, right? And because if you took one away, you wouldn't be
yeah,
able to have the other, you know? And so,
yeah,
especially with that, like you have there's all these different practices and everything like that. Like we can look at the NLP and the breath work, the somatics, the biohacking, and one thing that stuck out to me is this feeling of worthiness, right? And
yeah,
so where is your stance on even something as simple for me when I look at something like affirmations, right? I think it's a very basic step in terms of
yeah.
like having someone go into the deeper roots of their healing. I think that that can be helpful when you're first starting, but there becomes a point where you grow up out of it. You have other modalities that are going to work a lot better. So even someone that doesn't feel necessarily worthy or deserving of the relationship, the body, the insert something external, um, how do you help people really realize their self-worth?
Hmm. Great question. It's a long journey. No,
Yep,
no, no.
yep.
Well, yeah, because I feel like every year I have some kind of layer about self-worth that comes out. I feel good. I feel worthy. But last week, then another layer came out. I'm like, I thought I dealt with that 2 years ago. Right? It's
Yep.
and the thing is, self-worth is linked to the dad. Self-love is linked to mom, right? Solar
Hmm.
plexus, masculine, is linked to dad. So it always look at the relationship you had with your dad.
Hmm.
If you felt abundant, if you felt not, you didn't receive what you needed from your father figure, for the masculine figure in your life, it will impact your self-worth. Even the basic stuff, as your dad didn't show up for one of your match or your show, it will impact, it will bring us some kind of layer of unworthiness. So that's
Hmm.
the first thing to look at, because that's what that is linked to self-worth. And your relationship with money, right? How do you deal with money? Because money is self-worth. How
Yeah.
much do you value yourself? All this is connected. And in terms of working with the self-worth, I would write a letter to yourself. Like I would write a letter to your old self and burn it.
Hmm.
Write a letter to that old version of yourself and acknowledge. Take a minute before that. Do it like a little ceremony. Burn a candle. Take it seriously. Write a letter and take a moment to acknowledge that part of yourself, that little person inside of you, your inner child. And
Hmm.
then once you're ready to let it go, just write a letter and thank that part of yourself, that unworthiness. Thank her, thank
Yeah.
him. And burn that letter and then play with your inner child and reassure your inner child, telling him that it's not it's not like this anymore. Nothing has to be, because everything is linked to how your inner child feels as well. So it's bringing him in or her in at the same time
Yeah.
by doing some powerful things and integrating both of them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Now, when I look at this, what is the first step to unravel another layer? What is the first step to forgiveness, right? We've all made mistakes. We have hurt people. We have done things we regret. How can we forgive that past version of ourselves and step into that new version of yourself?
Forgiveness, that's a big one. Huh?
Hmm.
Wow, you're hitting hard. That's a great question, Shawn. Wow, we've been on a tangent to forgiveness. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, amazing. I believe forgiveness is the most powerful tool for any kind of upgrade in your life. If you're stuck, it's all about your vibration, your frequency, how high your vibration is. And if you're holding grudges for someone, this is keeping you low. And the lower you are, the lower shit you will attract. In terms of forgiveness, what I do Ho'oponopono. It's an Hawaiian meditation technique where you state four things. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So you're basically saying these four statements with the intention of releasing any energy, any tension, any grudges that you hold for yourself or for someone else. And it works like magic. It's you sometimes I do it in front of the mirror. I watch my left eye
Mhm.
and I say to myself, and I'm like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And that just allows the energy to lift. And even as simple as, for example, worthiness. If you did something that hurt you so much that you did that to yourself because you didn't feel worthy enough, but now you realize, how can I do that? How did I do that to myself? Well, use that technique. Just say sorry to yourself. Because on an energetic level, the vibration of those words, they clear your field. They clear your field. That's what I would use. And write a letter. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
And write a letter. Just
Yeah.
keep writing. The power of journaling is you make a statement, you declare something to the universe,
Yeah.
and the universe listen.
Yeah. And now when I look at the universe and God and however someone is portraying this in their minds, for myself, like you can insert some type of word, where is this all being, right? The creator, I'll say something
Yeah,
that's interchangeable, creator, universe, God, whatever resonates best for you. How can someone deep, or someone that's on that verge, they want to believe but they don't have that knowing, right? How can they step further into that, um and have that better vibration and have more of that trust in the universe and in bringing better energy to themselves?
ask, ask. You want to trust. You want to have faith. Ask him or her, whatever you believe. Ask signs. Just speak to it. Start praying, but without expectation. Just put an intention. Say, I'm on a journey. I'm looking for answers. I'm seeking my truth. Can you show me that you're real? Can you give me a sign that there's something bigger than me? Can you show me the way? Can you guide me to you? Can you guide me to a better understanding? Because the intention and prayers are very powerful when they're done with an open heart and a pure intention. And whatever you seek seeks you too. If you're seeking truth, your truth is seeking to you. And God, the universe, the creator, whatever that is, only wants to guide you better, only wants to help you better, he wants you to believe in him. So if you ask some guidance or a sign or message, he will deliver that to you, I believe.
Yeah. I think that often what happens is that, and for myself specifically, right, that we ask for this certain thing or we ask for this certain sign, but it shows up differently, right? It
Yeah,
shows
true.
up as a person, or it shows up as um an interaction at the grocery store or something. It shows up not in the way that you expect it to, right?
Yes, it's true.
And I think that's where people have a difficult time, myself included, of being like, no, this isn't what I asked for, right? But it's really there. It's
Yeah.
just not in the way that you wanted it to come to fruition. So I'd love to circle back more to Because we've been a little all over the place here already, right?
That was
And so,
absolutely fantastic.
yes, yes. So I'd love to circle back just to a little bit more of like how you're helping women right now. That way we can get some actionable steps for women.
Yeah.
To when they are disconnected, when they're having issues with their gut, when they're having, a sense of unworthiness, all of these different aspects that you're helping with. What are a couple of simple biohacking techniques that you're using with women now that are some actionable steps that hopefully women can take away from and start to utilize?
Yes. Great question. Thank you for asking this. The first step that I would recommend or put any woman on first is start tracking your cycle. Your first day of your cycle is the first day of your bleed. It's very important because you need to start understanding the pattern of your cycle. So when I say track, it's track how you feel the first 5 days when you bleed. How long do you bleed? How is the bleed? Just track everything because that will help you understand once you're out of balance. Because your cycle is your fifth vital sign. And if your cycle is out of balance, that means something is out of balance in your body. So I would say track your cycle and track your symptoms, track how you feel, and then once you get better at tracking, you can start implementing the right food for that phase. For example, the first few days of your cycle, you want to keep your insulin low and you can put your stress level can go higher. So you can train harder the first few days of your cycle, the first weeks of your cycle. But then a week before your cycle, you want to focus on healthy carbs and lower your stress level because the progesterone doesn't thrive on stress. So if you put your body in a state of stress, like you go really hardcore at the gym, that will put it stress and that will mess up your hormone. And one hormone imbalance mess up the whole lot of it. So you just want to once you start understanding how the cycle works, it just all makes sense. And then it just really becomes easy. That would be really the first thing and regulate
Mm.
stress level,
Yeah.
implement some kind of breath work, some meditation, some self-care. That's so important to just because as women we're connected to the body, and
Mhm.
that reconnection to the body really helps to just manage everything and
Mhm.
just be in the state of flow because it's the subconscious mind, the body is, it's all connected, but it just makes life easier to be connected to the body.
Yeah. Now, oh, go ahead, continue.
Oh, no, no,
Oh, okay. Um,
yeah.
well, I had two questions, but I lost the second one, but it was better.
uh,
I promise. But it'll come back to me. It happens
It
to the
probably come
best of
back,
them,
yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah, oh yeah.
so when you're starting to look at your cycle and the first 5 days of bleeding, what is something that looks normal and what is something that may look abnormal? What are some of the key indicators there?
Well, if you're in a painful period, painful period, there's a threshold. You're not supposed to be in, in pain to the level where you can't get out of bed. And it's very common, but it's not normal. PMS or really, really, really intense pain
Mhm.
have been normal. Like people believe it's normal, but it's not. And you shouldn't be in that much pain. And so look at it. If you're in a lot of pain, you should seek help, but not a practitioner because they really don't have an answer for that. So
Mhm.
look for like a naturopath or someone, or even you can reach out to me. Or what you can do is, yeah, you can start changing your food intake. But the other thing is the way you bleed. If you overly bleeding, if you bleed to the point where you have to change your pad every 2 hours, every few hours, and you have to put like a lot of pads, this is not normal.
Mhm.
It's not normal. If you bleed for like over 10 days, it's not normal. A bleed should be between 4 to 7 days. And if you spot outside of your bleed time, if it's repeated, it shouldn't be, it's not normal. And
Mhm.
it could be for so many reasons, but
Mhm.
that's all reasons why you should like that would you would want to go and just seek some advice about what's going on in your body.
Mhm.
And if there's
Um,
no bleed, yeah, if there's no bleed, it's not normal too. You shouldn't be not bleeding, and you should definitely go and get advice straight away because it's
yeah.
not normal not to bleed.
Yeah. And now this brings me back to my question that I had that I had forgotten. So, You've talked a lot about stress already, right? And a lot of stress is all of these external factors, right? A boyfriend or a job or family. And so when you have all of this stress in your environment, it's not always the easiest thing for people to just go and do a 180 on their life. How can you help someone push them to, hey, you're more worthy than the job that you're currently at or the relationship that you're in. And you're not going and telling people, hey, you need to go and quit your job, get a divorce, and exile your family. That's not what we're saying here is my guess. Um, but how can you go and have a woman step out of these toxic environments and push them into something that is going to make it so that they're much less stressed?
Mm, I believe it's a process. I believe it takes some time and it takes one thing after the other. And it's a ripple effect. Once you start slowly implementing small things and you start taking care of yourself, everything just starts to happen with you. But first, it needs to have the intention. The person needs to have a strong intention that she wants to change her life for better. Because I can't do anything if the person is not 100% with me wanting to change her life or just to have a better quality of life. If she's not sure, I can't help because I will guide, but I will not tell her what to do. I will guide her, but she makes the decision. So intention, and then starting by small self-care practices, as I said, like breath work or go for a walk by yourself or spend more time alone and just reflection, self-reflection, like asking yourself question, is this really beneficial for me? Why do I put
Mhm.
myself through this? Like, is it worth it? Why do I do this? Why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why do I keep getting beaten up? Like, what is it with me? And putting herself in being accountable for her life because she attracted that life. She created that reality. So instead of being the victim, we're going to change the narrative and put her into the author. Okay, I created that, so I can change it. How do I change it? And then we go from there. But it's all about starting with you and how ready you are to change your life, really.
Yeah.
And how understanding as well that it is all you, it is all us. We create, we can change. We're not stuck. Everything is moving, it's constantly moving. So it's
Mhm.
just moving with that.
Yeah. Right. And there's a law of the universe that everything is vibrating at a certain level,
Yes.
right? And one thing that stuck out to me as well, I've said something that stuck out to me, but there's just been so much that has stuck out to me here talking to you today, right? And
Thank you.
so, but when we look at this self-care, and I think what can happen, there's a misconception that okay, self-care for me is going to be laying on the couch, I'm eating a pint of ice
Mm,
cream, and you're deteriorating, right? And we convince ourselves that this is self-care. And I think that if you want to be lazy and going back to the beginning of our conversation, getting out of that shame and guilt, if you want to be lazy and just that's the intention to be lazy, then great. That can be a great rest and reset and part of this self-care practice. But I think far too often people are convincing themselves that self-care is I'm going to go and drink a bunch of alcohol and eat a bunch of bad food and all of these different types of things. So how can we switch this mindset of all of these things that are not helping me? That's my self-care into that's not my self-care. That's not self-love, right? How can we change that mindset?
hmm. How can we change that mindset? Well, I guess the mindset will change as you get to learn to love yourself because it's a reflection of how much you love yourself. And some people don't know any better, but if you really want it, you can start learning different opportunity, different avenues on how you can take care of yourself. Because I believe if you've done it your whole life, if you've laid down in the couch and it's just normal for you, at some point you might start to realize that it doesn't work for you anymore. So you start seeking other ways of looking after yourself. So I would just be like, watch YouTube videos and just ask questions and put the intention that you want to change and change will come to you. Just be clear about what you want. Hey, I'm done watching movies and I want to start taking care of myself, but I don't know how to do it. Okay,
Mhm.
just set an intention. Okay, I'm going to start looking at other ways on how I can take care of myself. And I'm just going to put it out there, but I'm going to actively look because your subconscious will look for that, right? Once you set an
Mhm.
intention with your subconscious mind, that's a different story because your subconscious will now look for other ways on how you can take care of yourself.
Mhm.
But yet, all with in this situation, I would say intention and being open and really put some inspired action in terms of reaching out to people, going on YouTube, or even just Googling stuff. Really
Mhm.
just being open and be like a child. Look with curiosity, with with excitement. Make it exciting because life can get too serious and really make it exciting and be excited like, oh, I'm gonna take care of myself. Like I'm excited. When my 12 years old comes out, I look like a kid. I'm like running like barefoot in the field, like who playing with the fairies. But that's what my inner child wants to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's self-care,
Yeah.
a
Um,
form of self-care.
yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I mean, everything just goes back to that intention part of things that we're getting
Yeah.
at here, right? Without the proper intention, you're always going to find subconsciously a way to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So, Estelle, this has been amazing. So, how can we find you and connect with you, and possibly work with you? How can we get in touch with you?
So anyone who'd like to get in touch with me, I have my Instagram account, which is Estelle Nkubito, all in one together. And then we've got my Facebook account, which is Estelle Linu. And then my website. My website is just getting launched next week, but it would be the biohackingcoach.com.au. So it's all coming together. And then yeah, you can reach out to me anytime if you have any question. I'm very easygoing. I'm very chill. You can just ask me a question, and if I can help, I always help. I'm always really happy to help and very passionate about elevating women and what they're worthy of receiving.
Yes, yes. So, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. So, our last question here comes from a question from our last guest. So, this is if you
Oh,
could, so if you could only pick 5 exercises for the rest of your life, what would they be?
mental or physical
It
growth?
just says exercises, so it's open for interpretation here.
Exercise, I would say meditation,
Mhm.
breath work, yoga, dance, journaling.
Hmm. Those, I do not think that he was ready for those answers. So, yeah, he definitely was not there. So, Estelle, it has been a pleasure to talk to you today. All right.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming on. Guys,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for
Thank
all those questions. We really went deep. I really
Of
appreciate
course.
that. Thank
No,
you.
beautiful. Thanks, everyone.